The sprinklers inside the clubhouse went off at the exact moment the state auditors walked in, soaking a pyramid of paper labeled Prosperity Tithe, and knocking Trisha Dalloway's shredder into a heroic death rattle. She screamed with pure panic in her voice that it was privileged HOA scripture as 3 bankers' boxes of donation logs slid across the tile like fleeing crabs. Someone yelled asking who invited the Attorney General, and I, quiet, damp, and suddenly very awake, pretended I didn't know how any of this started. My name is Caleb Mercer. I own the only house in Juniper Heights with a koi pond and a mailbox that isn't a miniature Greek temple. I work remotely, keep to myself, mow straight lines, and wave politely. That should have made me invisible. Instead it made me a target for Trisha Dalloway, HOA president, Pilates evangelist, and part-time oracle of doom. Her manifesto arrived folded into my due statement, a new community prosperity assessment requiring 10% of every homeowner's salary, payable monthly, to elevate neighborhood excellence. She wanted W-2 forms submitted to her email. Transparency builds trust, she wrote, carbon copying herself from 3 different titles: President, Compliance, and Blessings Coordinator. I read it 3 times thinking it was some kind of joke or maybe a phishing scam. But no, this was real. Trisha had typed it up on official HOA letterhead with gold foil edges and a clip art dove carrying an olive branch made of dollar signs. The first neighborhood meeting after the announcement was packed. 73 homeowners crammed into a clubhouse designed for 40, and the air conditioning had mysteriously stopped working. Trisha stood at the podium in a white linen pantsuit that screamed guru meets corporate lawyer, and she smiled like someone who had just discovered the secret to eternal youth. She clicked through a presentation titled Abundance Through Alignment, with slides full of stock photos showing diverse people holding hands in wheat fields. According to Trisha, our neighborhood was suffering from prosperity blockage. The solution was collective financial transparency and shared sacrifice, her words, not mine. When someone asked if this was legal, she laughed and said that legality was just a social construct invented by people with scarcity mindsets. When another neighbor pointed out that 10% of everyone's income could total hundreds of thousands of dollars annually, Trisha nodded slowly and said that was the point, that abundance attracts abundance. When neighbors balked, Trisha revved the golf cart like a tank rolling into battle. I got citations for pond water with arrogant vibes, a fence that projects scarcity, and the classic trash can visible for 9 minutes after collection. A drone hovered over my backyard to verify income-lifestyle congruence. She explained in an email dripping with self-righteousness. She taped a red notice to my door that read, non-compliant earner, and told anyone who would listen that I was hiding tech bro crypto millions in the koi filter. Fines doubled, then tripled. She threatened a lien with the confidence of someone who had never actually read property law. She even slipped a wage verification form into my mailbox, tampering with federal mail, bless her heart, featuring a clip art gavel and a signature block labeled Notary-ish. The harassment escalated weekly. Trisha started showing up at my house unannounced, always with her phone out, recording what she called compliance documentation. She filmed my garbage cans, my lawn, my car, and once even tried to peek through my fence to see if I had luxury items that didn't match my supposed income level. She sent emails to my neighbors warning them that my non-compliance was creating a vibrational debt that would lower everyone's property values. She posted on the neighborhood Facebook page that certain residents were hoarding wealth energy and that their negative auras were manifesting as crabgrass in communal areas. 3 elderly homeowners on fixed incomes received late notices for failing to submit their Social Security statements. A single mom working 2 jobs got a citation for economic resistance after she politely declined to share her tax returns. Every tyrant leaves breadcrumbs. Trisha had reclassified our HOA in the county records as a benevolent fraternal collective, then opened an account for the Juniper Heights Benevolence Fund with only herself as signer. She had stapled the fake tithe to a misquoted covenant about contributing to common welfare and added a verse number like it came out of the Bible of landscaping. So I plotted, quietly and methodically. I requested all association records as allowed by state law. Trisha tried to deny the request, then said the records were being audited, then claimed they were in storage in another state, then finally said I could view them but only in her presence and only for 15 minutes while she supervised. I cited the exact statute that gave me the right to copies, not a supervised viewing, and threatened to file a court motion if she didn't comply within 10 business days. While I waited, I did my homework. I pulled county records showing the reclassification filing. I searched the Secretary of State database and found Trisha's Wellness Leadership LLC registered just 2 weeks after she announced the prosperity assessment. I requested bank records through a subpoena preparation service, getting ready to file if needed. I documented every fine, every email, every threatening letter. I made spreadsheets. I backed everything up in 3 separate cloud accounts. I bought one $1 cashier's check marked Prosperity-Tithe Pilot and handed it in at the open meeting, on camera, with witnesses everywhere. I made sure to say loudly and clearly that I was paying under protest and that this payment was not an admission of any legal obligation. I watched Trisha's face light up as she accepted the check like it was a validation of her entire scheme. Then I sent the paper trail to everyone who likes paper trails: State Attorney General's Consumer Protection, Department of Financial Institutions, the County Recorder, the Bank's Compliance Office, the Postal Inspector for the mailbox stunt, and for Spice, the IRS whistleblower office with a bow made of screenshots. I also placed a no trespass affidavit on file with our local police and trained my doorbell camera on the sidewalk like a lighthouse watching for storms. Each complaint was detailed, organized, and included exhibits labeled A through Z. I sent everything via certified mail with return receipt requested. I kept copies of every tracking number. I created a timeline document showing how the scheme evolved from initial announcement to current enforcement. I even included a calculation showing that if all 82 homeowners paid 10% of the neighborhood's median income of $75,000, Trisha would be collecting over $600,000 annually, with no oversight, no budget, and no accountability. The first crack came from the bank. Account frozen pending review. Next, a detective called to confirm in a tone of amused disbelief that HOA volunteers cannot demand tax forms to align your aura. Then, at the next meeting, the door opened and a small parade entered: 2 state auditors, a city attorney, and a police officer who looked allergic to nonsense. They asked for financial statements and board minutes documenting the salary tithe. Trisha tried to stall with a PowerPoint presentation about community vibrational alignment, speaking faster and faster as sweat appeared on her forehead, but the officer slid a trespass warning across the table, for her, based on footage of her stepping into my backyard to smell for wealth. The board, sensing smoke and wanting no part of the bonfire, flipped faster than a pancake on a hot griddle. The secretary produced a thumb drive labeled Trish $, and whispered nervously that she didn't sign up to be a deacon. The treasurer, a retired accountant who had been suspiciously quiet for months, suddenly found his voice and announced that he had been keeping a separate set of books because something felt wrong, and he wanted documentation in case things went south. Cue the sprinklers. Someone bumped their coffee into the fire panel, the ceiling misted, the shredder choked on a soggy tithe ledger. The auditors laid everything out like a forensic charcuterie board: deposits from homeowners' checks, transfers to Trisha's Wellness Leadership LLC, and a Venmo memo that read Prosperity Champagne. The projector, still running and flickering through the mist, displayed her email to the board: remember, call it a tithe, not a fee. Church words equals fewer questions. Phones recorded from every angle. Neighbors gasped and murmured in shock. The officer read off possible counts in a calm, professional monotone: mail tampering, fraudulent filings, conversion of funds, and the crowd-pleasing attempted extortion. Trisha tried to sprint for the door and wiped out on a pile of damp covenant binders, baptizing herself in 3-hole punched hubris and landing in a sprawl of soggy paperwork and shattered dignity. The auditors kept digging. They found that Trisha had paid herself a consulting fee of $5,000 per month for prosperity coaching services that nobody had requested or received. They found charges to the HOA account for her personal Pilates equipment, her meditation retreat in Sedona, and something called a crystal grid activation session. They found emails where she had coached board members on how to describe the assessment as voluntary contributions for tax purposes while simultaneously threatening liens for non-payment. They found a draft press release announcing Juniper Heights as the nation's first enlightened economic collective, with Trisha positioned as founder and spiritual financial advisor. One auditor, a woman with glasses and the most magnificent poker face I have ever seen, held up a receipt for a $2,000 fountain Trisha had installed in her own backyard and billed to neighborhood beautification. By September, the judge permanently barred Trisha from serving on any HOA, PTA, or vibrational council within the state. Restitution was ordered in the amount of $47,000, liens lifted, and her Pilates reformer was auctioned in the cul-de-sac for library funds. Best of all, The court garnished exactly 10% of her salary for 5 years to reimburse the neighbors she had tried to tithe. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who had clearly seen every scam in the book, added that Trisha would also serve 200 hours of community service and attend a mandatory ethics course on fiduciary responsibility. She stood there in the courtroom, face pale and mouth hanging open, as the judge delivered the sentence with zero sympathy, and I watched her realize that irony has a mean backswing.